You think you're the very first cars you probably remember, with the crank in the front.
Oh yeah, I remember the crank. I remember my father got a broken hand because of the crank.
Really?
He was cranking and it went back on him.
On the other hand, your father was rich enough to buy a car. My grandfather.
No,
in those days, my father still had a horse and a wagon.
He had a truck that he was used to use for delivery.
My grandfather died when my father was
small
15,
truck,
and he took over the milk route. And he was like 2 years before they realized the kid was doing that.
I believe it. I believe it. Our learning sponsors, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Saratova Bad Yisrael Dov in her memory. Friends of Nina Monestu, Nechama Asna Bad Yitzchak Aharo. Many friends of Stephen Vigdil, Ezechen Nishmat Simcha Melech Ben Meir Halevi. Friends of Marcy Kurtz in memory of her great niece Leah Bracha. Isaac and Evelyn Blachor in memory of her sister Chaya Rachel Bas Esser. A month of learning by Malin Haran Haller in memory of his brother Yaakov ben Avraham. Perry and Jill Meltzer in memory of his parents Bella Bad Avraham and David ben Fishel Halevi. Today, a day of learning plus Torah fund by myself and Karen in memory of my father Mordechai Yehuda ben Binyamin. And that is it for today. May the Shemas Heaven Leah, Crank Rafi Avadi Shem Shemat Leah, Kol B'nai Israel Good Geben Shjar. We're also keeping in mind for Fua Shlema, as we recited Tehillim this morning, for, I'm going to tell you because I've got his name.
Michael Schiff.
Yeah. What do you think you would say to the Tehillim for?
He's replacing a
Elimelech Ze'ev ben Chaya Yehudis. He's having kidney surgery.
Yeah, but putting in, taking out, what?
That is a good question. I can't go into more details.
Because you don't know.
I
you
know.
Do know and you choose not to.
It's better not to.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay. All right. I believe we're on Yud Bet, Amud Aleph, the top of the Amud, right?
Good.
All right. So just very quickly, remember we just had this Braita at the end of the previous Amud, okay, that if the first husband brought her in, okay, and for whatever reason they did not seclude, or even if the witnesses said they secluded but didn't have time for Bia, what happens? The second husband does not have a claim against her vis-a-vis her virginity. Okay, that is what we completed with the end of the Amud, right? In other words, basically the second husband should assume
that she's used
goods. Okay, experienced use. That's it. What?
Am I to have to say every time I have to assume something before I do something? That's what I don't understand with the law. Where they come up to assume?
Because she was married already.
Was married to
if I had witnesses.
But it doesn't say it doesn't have witnesses.
Exactly.
It says, hold on, even if they had witnesses that she wasn't miyached. Right. There's a chazaka that married women had bia. This guy is marrying a widow. He has to at least take that into account.
Okay.
That's all. That's all the Gemara Well, she's either a widow or a divorcee. You can't marry a married woman unless she's either widowed or divorcee. And the Brisa said she was a widow.
Okay. The second, in other words, the implication from the Brisa is that this is her second marriage.
I'm not saying
no. Right. And in this case, okay.
And they never had a chance to get together yet, even though they did it.
Right. And so the Gemara, the Braita is trying to tell us, under those circumstances, when it's a second marriage, okay.
Automatically, I have to assume.
Automatically, right. Automatically, the second husband should assume
that you have to at least recognize that
That's the
possibility.
case.
Why did they write in the ksuba for soon back here? How
Okay.
can they do that then?
The
They
ksuba is
they
not-
should assume she should get a monarch.
The kasuba is not. That's right. She gets a monarch.
Okay.
I'm not saying no.
So
why
I'm
did
going
they
to
do so?
say, said, so I'm going to say, let's assume for the moment, let's suggest that that's part of the underlying
The reason why I'm saying
question that the Gemara is exploring also.
The reason
Okay.
is
We've-
normally
Yeah, in one
a
second.
second ksuba is not the same writing as the first.
It's
So
not.
how come they put it in?
Because they put in that she's in the suin. Can I make a comment?
In a
You
moment.
understand my question?
Yes, I understand your question. And I'm suggesting since the Gemara has been presenting us under this circumstances, it's this amount. And under this circumstances, it's this amount. We're now presenting in the Mishnah a new,
So the Gemara decided to put it in.
yeah,
To put it in is for us to hold this conversation, whether she's Arison or
No, we had it twice. We had this discussion once. with
Arison is
and
done.
once with
Do you
Nisuyin.
mind if I speak to the rabbi?
Erusin for the moment is not
That
the
was
discussion. Okay? The question is, if we've discussed in different situations what the amount is going to be in the ketubah, we're now presenting another situation. First we did in the Mishnah, and now we're doing in the Braita, in a situation and trying to clarify what's going on. Now I'll let Michael just make his suggestion, and then we'll come back, okay?
Vis-a-vis the text of the Kesubah. A girl who was a Balas Tshuva, she was an NCSY Balas Tshuva, wrote to Reb Moshe Feinstein, I have a boyfriend. I had previous sexual activity before I became religious. Now this boy wants to marry me. I'm worried about what we put in the Kesubah. So Reb Moshe said, if you tell him about your previous activity, you don't want to embarrass either one of you. It's a first wedding. They can put Besula in the Kesubah as long as he does not make a macha. In other words, if he is willing to accept the word Besula and the 200 zuz payout, then you can put that in, even though it's not factual. That's what Reb Moshe wrote. So clearly the text of the Kesubah is not an issue. It's whether or not he pays her nothing, one or two. That's all that's at issue. And we take the chazaka that 99.9% of all married women were bu'ulos, that we put her in that chazaka. At least he has to contemplate that as a theoretical possibility, because they could have been together by after Erusin. They lived in Yehuda, we're going to learn they could have gotten together prior to the chuppah. So there are a lot of opportunities for her to not be a virgin, even though witnesses at the wedding said they didn't have time.
Kenny, even though she was married to Mordechai Klein? A Kleiner?
I already got one.
You don't know.
There's a Rebbeinu
But you understand, Sid, why I said the initial flow of the Gemara is that we've been given situations where we've said a Betula is X, an Almana is Y, and what happens in various, okay, and other times there could be none. And so therefore we're now bringing up through the Mishnayot other scenarios where there might be a change in that general format. Okay?
How you handle special situations.
Right, exactly.
Just one more question. So after the first night, the wedding night, and they find she's not a virgin, they change the ksuba?
No, the Kesubah remains.
I find it interesting, just to respond to your question through Michael's comment, I find it very interesting to what degree Reb Moshe was willing to be mekil in that situation. And it reminded me of Shaktu, of what we said here, that Shaktu Rabbanim al kavod benot Yisrael, that he seemed to be following in that conceptual mindset that
I
you
only
tried.
mentioned part of
No, it's fine.
of the
I
letter.
appreciate you having brought it up because it allows us to connect it back into the Gemara. Number
That we
one,
care about their well-being.
okay, their well-being, and number two, it allows us to say, even though we've seen, and coming back to Sid's question, even though we've seen Mishnayot that try to clearly define the amount in the ketubah, when it's paid 200, when it's 100, when it's zip, okay? Nevertheless, okay, are there, for the moment I use the word, extraordinary situations, okay, that
We're
allow,
going to learn that you can make it any amount you want.
okay, that allow us, okay, now, we're going to get to a situation as we go through the Gemara, and I'll get into the text, where we're going to see that families of Kohanim and families with a special yichus, okay, were expecting the ketubah amount to be more. Okay, so, and again, the Gemara is really telling us, yes, we understand that the Mishnah established certain minimums. Thank you, Marty. Okay, standards. Okay, all right. But we're going to see when you're dealing with humanity, when you're dealing with real situations, they may have to be exceptions.
Rabbi Willig wrote a prenup that you pay $1,000 a week if you refuse to give a get. And much of modern Orthodoxy has accepted and that. Does that.
Okay, that's interesting. I had not heard of that. Okay.
But also with Moshe, for this to stop words, the main point is that the chassan has to know it.
Correct.
Right. Right. Well, that comes back. Good, Marty.
That's what the Gemara is making a difference between hikabah and lo hikabah.
Right. Exactly, Reuven. That's just what I was going to say. Baruch shekivanta, Reuven. So Reuven is connecting it back to what we saw in the Gemara about the Dukat eights, whether hikir ba alo hikir ba, and so that doesn't just apply, perhaps, to that situation.
I mean, what he actually wrote was that she does not have to reveal to him early in the relationship.
Yeah.
But if it gets
in other words, she doesn't get a piece of bologna wrapping and stick it there instead.
No.
So it has a hechsher. No. And so it says when he breaks it, she says, oh, it's even got a hechsher.
She doesn't put a plumber. But he said, you don't have to talk in detail. You don't have to say how many men. Just say that I had experience before before I became a Balas Tshuva, and that's it. And you have to tell him that at or before the actual engagement, but not early in the relationship. That's what I mean. The same Tshuva.
Okay. All right. Okay. I wonder if that should be publicized. That was the issue. And maybe it was only for that issue, for that situation.
It comes up, and when they talk to their Rav, he said there's a tshuva. It's not an insignificant. It's a well-known tshuva.
Well, it wasn't well known.
Posted in the seminaries.
No, not necessarily. No, I don't think that was.
So I'm telling you, Rav Moshe said.
Right, exactly. Okay, so it's a good.
I'm surprised that the Gemara puts in the words. We assume that.
Okay, all right.
Sometimes you have other situations.
That's what chazaka means. That
okay.
You make an assumption.
Let's get on with
okay, so but all of this brings us back now, gentlemen. Okay, let's go back. Yes, we started because we've connected it back to hikir lo hikir, and we suspected it back to the situation that the Mishnah brought of Dukat eights. And now, given this situation, Rava is going to respond. Amar Rava, Zoto merit, he says, Kansa b'chezkat betula, if he brought her into his house on the assumption, halachic assumption, okay, that she is in the halachic status of a virgin. V'nimtzeit b'ula, and he discovers she is not. Yesh la k'tuba mana. He says, according to Rava, then right, and that she should only get the k'tuba of a mana. Ravashi Amar says Ravashi, ba'alma in general, le'olam emalach, I would tell you, lit le klal. She should not get anything, says Ravashi. V'shani hacha shaharei kansari shon. And what makes it different here is because she was brought into the home of a first husband. Okay, and even though we have the chazaka, that doesn't mean we have real evidence. V'nichush shema tachtav zinta. So the Gemara asks, and maybe we should suspect that regarding the time
when she was an arusa
to the second husband, exactly, that when she was an arusa to the second husband, that she had extracurricular activities. Amar Rav Shravya, says Rav Shravya, Kigon Shakidesh Uba'ala alter. Okay, maybe it will be an example like what's done in Yehuda. Okay, that he has kedushin with her. And and by the way, I just want to share something here. Koren Steinsaltz had an excellent comment here, which I don't think was in. No, the comment was, remember previously in the Gemara, we had talked about the first night privilege of the hegemon. Okay? Koren here brought a note to indicate that it was very clear that he only took advantage of that prerogative if he knew for sure that she was a virgin.
Talmudology says that a lot of cultures have that.
Yeah, it's not just there.
Nobody has ever been able to demonstrate it really happened.
Well, that's besides the point. Okay, but here the note was important because it implied, therefore, that this practice in Yehuda was done perhaps particularly to thwart the hegemon from taking advantage of his first night privilege.
Steinsaltz says that?
Yeah.
That's very
okay. Nice. So I thought that was important because it ties in here to what Rav Shravya is saying, is that maybe almost immediately after the Kedushin, as we saw clearly was done in Yehuda, that the Gemara told us already that would again, okay, rule up, because where would the hegemon have his base of operations? In Yehuda, Yerushalayim. Okay, all right. Well, that was separate because that would have actually done for the Galil area.
Well, whatever. I mean, the point is,
okay.
Nice
but I wanted to share that because I thought that was a worthwhile contribution within the context of our Gemara here. Okay, and there are those who teach it on our Mishnah. Betula almana v'grusha, the three women we said this, right? Chalutza, there's the fourth. Min hanisuin, from having been married, ketubatan mana. Okay, their ketubah for the second marriage, okay, is going to be a mana.
Even if she claims.
Even right, if she claims she's still a betula.
So there's no mikvah.
Okay, right. Okay. Ve'en lehen ta'anat betulim, and there is no claim against her of virginity in those situations. Okay, betula min hanisuin hechi mishkachet la, asks the Gemara, how is it possible that she might still be a virgin after the marriage event? How is that possible? Kigon shenichnasa lechuppah v'lo nivala. For example, that she entered under the chuppah, but there was no yichud. There was no right final act. Amar Rava, says Rava, zoto merit, again, similar to what he said. That seems to tell us, says Rava. Okay, understand the lashon here. It only seems to tell us, right? Kansa b'cheskat betula. If someone brought her into his house under the legal supposition that she was a virgin. Okay, v'nimtzeit b'ula, and discovers that she is no longer a virgin. Ketubata mana, her ketubah is only a mana. Rav Ashi Amar, says Rav Ashi, le'olam emelach, I would say to you, ba'alma lit leklau. In general, really, she should not get anything. Vishani hacha, and it's different here, right? Why? Shaharei nichnesa lechupa. Why? Because now, what is he saying, Rav Ashi here? Okay, notice the difference in his answers. Before he said Sharei Kansari Shon. Now he's giving a different answer, right? So now
that's really not the issue. The issue is this based on the Bryce or based on the
could be, but I want to see
the same story.
It's true, but notice he's giving a different answer here. Okay? So the Gemara asks, therefore, again, perhaps maybe while the time she was engaged, betrothed to the second husband, she had extracurricular affairs. Amar Rabbi Shravya again. Kagon shekideshu ba'ala out there. He gives the very same answer. Okay.
So the difference is
right. So now we're going to say, what then is the difference between the Mishnah and the Braita? Okay? Particularly because, right, Rav Ashi gave a different answer. Man de matnela Braita, the one who teaches this in regards to the Braita, kol shekena matnitin. Certainly he's going to teach the same regarding the Mishnah, our Mishnah. Uman de matnela amatnitin, and the one who teaches it on our Mishnah. Aval abraita lo, but on the Braita he might not teach it, right? Mishum damatzi amarla ana aedim samche. Okay, I base my statement on the fact that there were witnesses. Okay, now that's going to lead us to ask the question, which we're not going to get to immediately. What then is the role of the shushbanim? We're going to get to that. Okay, that's the point. Matniten. Okay, since we brought up this whole question of Kedushin and then Bia Ba'alter, and we've already learned that that was something done in Yehuda, now we're going to go on, right, with the next Mishnah. All right, I just want to show that as Ravina and Rav Ashi edited the Mishnah, remember the Mishnah was originally one long section, and then the Gemara came separate afterwards. And then later they chopped it up. Exactly. So what happens? Matnitin ha'ochel etzel chamav, one who is eating by his father-in-law, Yehuda. Notice the Mishnah spells it out for us. This was done in Yehuda. Shelo be'edim, and there were no edim around. Okay, they were alone, him and her. Eino yachol l't'on ta'anat betulim. He is not able to make a claim against her regarding virginity. Why? Because he was secluded with her. Okay, however we want to define secluded. Okay, whether it was in the kitchen or in the bedroom. Okay.
All right. Had an adventurous relationship.
Okay.
Kitchen counters are great.
Meeting.
What about the sink?
Kitchen.
Not with the sink is it's all wet.
Okay, kitchen table. Midikatani ha'ochel. Since our Mishnah taught, okay, that they were, quote, eating, miklal de'ika duchta biYehuda, nami de lo achil. That tells us that there are also places in Yehuda where they did not eat. He did not eat by his father-in-law. In other words, they did not have an opportunity to be in Yichud. All right? So there were places in Yehuda where, yes, they were alone, places where they were not alone. Okay? Amar Abai, and Abai then says, Shma mina b'Yehuda, nami mekomot yesh. That therefore, says Abai, spelling it out, there are places, yes, they were alone, places where no, they weren't alone. Okay.
So they're going to put a minute on up.
Okay. Kedetanya Amar Rabbi Yehuda, as Rabbi Yehuda says, Be Yehuda. What happened? Rabbi Yehuda is going to explain it to us. In a Yehuda, Berishona Hayum Yachdin et Chatan v'et Kala Sha'achat Kodem Knisatan Lechupa. In Yehuda, there were situations where they brought together, okay, secluded the groom and the bride at least for an hour before they came under the chuppah. Right? Kadei sheyehe libo gaspa, so that they would be familiar with one another. Okay? Ubegalil lo hayu osin kein. And in the Galilee, they didn't do that. Biuda, again, explaining it. Biuda and Yuda, Barishona hayu ma'amidin lehem shnei shushbanin. In Yehuda, they used to establish them two groomsmen, and the role of the groomsmen was more than just being witnesses. Okay, we're going to see. Echad lo ve'echad la. One for him, one for her. Kadei lemashmesh et hachatan ve'et hakala b'shat knisatan lechupa. In order to search, I'm going to say, check them out, examine them, so that they would not be sneaking in certain items into the chuppah room. What might they sneak in? One example would be a sheet, or one example might even be a cloth, a badika cloth. Okay? All right? So we're going to see that in the Gemara shortly. Okay? No, the point is...
I thought they're checking out the equipment.
No. They're checking out that he can't fake that she's not a virgin.
Right. If he brought in, if he brought in a clean sheet, okay? If he brought in a clean sheet and then switched the sheets after Bia, he could then bring it out and say, hey, look.
Or she brings a
or she brings a cloth of which maybe she, whatever happened,
borrowed from her girl,
whatever, and it had blood on it. Okay, so we're going to see that in a moment. Okay, all right. Ubegalil lo hayu osin kein, and in the Galilee they didn't do that. Be Yehuda. Well, the Gemara is going to bring this up again. Koren had an outstanding note here. Okay, Be Yehuda in Judah. Birishona hayu shushbanin shnayim. Yeshenim. I'm sorry. Yeshenim babayit shechatan v'kala yeshenim. They would sleep in the same facility. Okay, I don't know if it was the same room. Okay.
Go.
Okay, ubegalil lo hayu osin kein. In the Galilee, they didn't do that. V'chol shelo nahag keminhag hazeh eino yechol lit'on ta'anat betulim. And one who did not follow the minhag of that location, okay, could not complain, make a complaint, a claim of virginity. Ahia, on which asks the Gemara, Ilema aresha, if we're talking about the initial phrase, kol shenahag mebayile, then we should say and reword the statement as whoever followed the minhag. That's how we should say it. Ela asefer, but maybe on the end statement, kol shalom mushmash, whoever wasn't examined or checked out. Mebayile. Maybe that's how it should be phrased. Amar Abai says Abai, le'olam aresha. It was only on the earliest statement. Right? Right? Vitani, and we teach kol shenahag. And that's how it should be taught. Amar le Rava, says Rava, vaha kol shelo nahag katani. But our text specifically said where it was not the practice to follow that custom. Ela amar Rava, but says Rava hachi kamar. This is what it means to tell us. Kol shelo nahag minhag galil begalil. Whoever didn't follow the practice, the customs of the Galil in the Galil. Okay? Ela minhag Yehuda begalil. The Judahite practices in Galil. Eino yechol lit'on ta'anat betulim. cannot make a claim of virginity.
Because they had yichud before.
Right, because they did yichud before. Rav Ashi Amar, says Rav Ashi, L'olama Seifa. No, says Rav Ashi, it was on the later statement. Batani Kol Shalom Mushmash. And therefore it referred, we should teach it whoever did not have the examination. Okay, new Mishnah. All right, back again. Achat Almanat Yisrael ve'achat Almanat Kohanim. The same applies to a widow of an Israelite.
No.
What do you mean no?
No.
Almanat.
Almanat Yisrael means a daughter of a Yisrael.
We're going to get to that in a second.
Widow.
Okay, we'll get
That's
to it in
how
a
you
second.
have to translate.
We'll get to it in a second. Echat Almanat Yisrael. One applies that she is the widow of an Israelite. Okay. One applies if she's the widow of a Kohen. What is her status? Her status is that she is the daughter of a Kohen.
In the second case,
Okay.
and the daughter of a Yisrael in the first.
Okay.
That's how you have to translate.
We'll see. Okay. What happens? Says the Gemara there, right? Right. Ketubata mana. Her ketubah is simply 100. Beit din shel kohanim hayu govin lebetula. A beit din of kohanim may establish for a virgin,
Daughter of a Kohen.
okay, who happens to be the daughter of a kohen, a ketubah, excuse me, value of arba me'ot zuz, of 400 zuz. V'lo michu bi'adam chachamim. And the sages did not challenge it or protest. Gemara, Tana, we're taught, va'almanat, and here, the daughter of a Kohen who is the widow of Kohanim, ketubata matayim. We see that there's a statement that says that her,
This is a Bryce. No.
this Braita says that her ketubah is 200, which is different from what just the Mishnah says. Okay? Vaha'anantanan, but here don't we teach Echat Almanat Yisrael ve'echat Almanat Kohanim ketubatan mana. Our Mishnah spelled out that this daughter of a Kohen, who is a widow of a Israelite, the same as if she's a widow of a Kohen, ketubatan mana, that it's only 100. Amar Rav Ashi, shtei takanot hayu. There were two different enactments. Me'ikara originally, takinu la betula arba'a me'od zuz ula amana mana. Originally, right, for this daughter of a Kohen, she had a ketubah of 400 zuz, and if it was a widow, it was only 100. There's a big gap there, right? Kevan dechazu de mezulzule baho. Since they saw that they were treating the women inappropriately, in other words, they weren't quick to marry the daughter of a Kohen under those situations because of the amount of money. Watch what happens. Takina laho matan. Then they made the second takana that it would be 200. Kevan dechazu the kaparshin minayu. Since they saw that they were keeping away from them. Why? Because what were the young men saying? The Amre, they were saying, Ad de nesabinan almanat kohanim, for the amount of money that we might marry a daughter of a Kohen who was a widow, right? Nizal nasib betula bat Yisrael. For the same amount of money, I can acquire a virgin daughter of an Israelite. Okay, I'll get a virgin instead of used goods. All right. So what happened? Ahadrinu lemiltaihu. They returned it back to the original situation. Okay. All right. Let's go on now. Beit din shel kohanim v'chulei. The second part of our of our Mishnah. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, in the name of Shmuel. Lo Beit Din shel Kohanim bilvad amru. It wasn't simply a court of Kohanim. El afilu mishpachot hamiyuchasot b'Yisrael. Even the high class families, would charge more for their daughters. Im ratzu la'asot kaderech she'kohanim osim. If they wanted to do the same way that the Kohanim did, osim, they could do so. Meitivei. But we'll challenge this with a braita. Okay? Harotzeh la'asot kaderech she'kohanim osim. Those who choose to do the same way that the Kohanim did, Kigon Bat Yisrael Kohen, as for example, when a daughter of an Israelite married a Kohen, or Bat Kohen Yisrael, or the daughter of a Kohen married an Israelite, Osin, they could do so. And we're going to see, the Gemara is going to tell us why, because their social status is being changed in that situation. Osin, they could do so. Bat Yisrael the Kohen, ubat Kohen Yisrael, who deikat sad kahuna, because there is an element of being married to a Kohen, so therefore there is a change in her social status. Okay? Aval bat Yisrael the Yisrael, lo. But an Israelite, daughter of an Israelite, to marry to another Israelite, no, they couldn't charge more for the ketubah. Lo mebaye ka'amar. We could even argue this is a lo mebaye kind of presentation. Lo mebaye, we certainly don't have to say bat Yisrael Yisrael. De lo matze amarla iluye kama'alinan lech. Right? Because we're saying in that situation, he is not able to say to her, I've upgraded your social status, right? Aval bat Yisrael the Kohen, but an Israelite, the daughter of an Israelite to a Kohen, the matze amarla iluye ka ma'alinan lech, where he is able to say, I'm upgrading your social status. Emalo, I might say no. Kamash malan comes to teach us. Okay, comes to teach us that's not the case. Okay, Matnitin, our new Mishnah. Hanoseyat ha'isha v'lo matzala betulim. One marries a woman and discovers she's not a virgin. Okay, he omeret, and she says mishera astani ne'anasti. After I was betrothed or engaged, I was raped. V'nischapa sadeh. We saw this already referred to. Your field was inundated. Tough luck. Okay? V'hu omer, but he says, lo, that's not the case. Ki ela ad shelo arastich v'haya mekchi mekach ta'ut. Maybe it wasn't before we became engaged. No, maybe it was before. Ad shelo arastich. Maybe it was before of the time that I became betrothed to you. That's the direct translation. And what I've got here is a inappropriate transaction. What happens? Rabban Gamliel and Rabbi Eliezer Omrim. The two of them say, Ne'emenet. She is believed. Rabbi Yoshua Omer, he says, Lo mipia anu chayim, ela harei zo b'chezkat be'ula, ad shelo tit ares. No, we're not taking her words at face value, so to speak, but we're saying she is in, what? You like that? Okay, but we're saying, but she is in the legal presumption of the status of being be'ula, okay, until she was engaged. Veheta auto, and she misled him, tricked him. Ad shetav, what? Ad shetavi ra'aya lidvareha, until she has to bring valid proof to substantiate her words. Whatever. Okay, let's go on. All right, we'll continue. I don't remember even what time it is now.
It's very late.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right, we'll move a little faster.
Almost 9:30.
Yeah. Itmar, we got discussion at the beginning today. Itmar, it was said as follows. About this, it was said, Manali biyadech. What about if he said the mana, right? Vahala amar, and this one says, Eini yodea, I don't know. Okay? In this case,
says, you owe me $100.
Okay, so we're taking another example. We're taking a situation where, okay, someone says, I owe you money, or you have money that have to pay me back. Okay, you have to pay me back, and the one who was challenged says, I don't know, I don't remember. Okay, Rav Yehuda v'Rav Huna Amrei. The two of them say, Chayav, he is obligated. Rav Nachman v'Rabbi Yochanan Amrei Patur, and the two of them say he's exempt. Rav Huna v'Rav Yehuda Amrei Chayav, the two that say he's obligated. Bari v'Shema, they use the principle when it's clear and it's uncertain. Bari Adif, then where it's clearly stated and right, that's the preferred. Rav Nachman v'Rabbi Yochanan Amrei Patur, the two of them who say that he's exempt. Okay, mimona b'chesket mare. Okay, that you have to prove to be able to take the money out of the presumption of the one who currently retains it. Okay, Amar le Abai the Rav Yosef, and so Abai says to Rav Yosef, Ha the Rav Huna v'Rav Yehuda. That statement, according to Rav Yehuda, Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda, to Shmuel he. That's similar to the position of Shmuel. It's not as we're taught. Haitam uberet. If the woman is pregnant, va'amrula mativo shel ubar zeh. What's the status of this child? In other words, who is the father? Okay, meish ploni v'kohenhu. He was from a kohen. Okay, Rabban Gamliel v'Rabbi Eliezer omrim ne'emenet. The two of them say she's believed. Va'amar Rav Yehuda amar Shmuel. And Rav Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, Halacha Rabban Gamliel, that the law is like Rabban Gamliel, implying that she is believed. If that's the case, how could you argue before? Va'amarle, and he says to her, Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda, the Rav Yehuda, Shinana, smart tooth guy. Amarta lan, you've said to us, Mishmei de Shmuel, you said in the name of Shmuel, Halacha Rabban Gamliel, af barishona, even in the earlier case. Mai af, what do we mean by even? Barishona, afal gav, the ikala memar, even though we might say in this situation, oke memona becheskat mare, even though we might use that principle, okay?
Rather
than Bari Vashema principle. Amar Rabban Gamliel, Bari Adif, and Rabban Gamliel says there that what was clear is preferred. Lema Rav Yehuda v'Rav Huna, the Amrei Rabban Gamliel. Shall we say that Rav Yehuda and Rabbi Huna say like Rabban Gamliel? V'Rav Nachman v'Rav Yochanan, the Amrei Rabbi Yoshua, and that they claim like Rabbi Yoshua, right? Amar lach Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman could argue with you. Ana the Amrei afilu Rabban Gamliel. I might present my opinion even like the view of Rabban Gamliel. Ad la kan, up to this point, lo ka'amar Rabban Gamliel hatam, that Rabban Gamliel would not have said it in that case, right? Regarding, could claim that instead of rape, she could have done a migo. What would her migo have been? She could have claimed I was a mukat eitz. Okay, and so therefore, for that reason, since she could have had a better answer through the migo of mukat eitz, the fact that she admits what happened of being raped must mean that we have to believe her that it occurred, okay, in that situation. Okay, right? So that's the point. Ela de'ika migo. Why? Because we said she has this other claim. All right? Aval hacha. But here in our claim where we're dealing with the money situation, my migo ika. What migo, what chance of a other claim could he have presented? Inami, or else I could argue this way. Adkan lo ka'amar Rabban Gamliel hatam. Rabban Gamliel wouldn't have given his answer there. Ela da'amrinan okma achazaka. Because I could say we establish it based on her presumptive status of being a virgin, right? Aval hacha, but here, my chazaka itle. What chazaka could he have had in that financial case? Lahai, to this one. Hachanami, here too, mistabra kedash mishaninan. Okay, they must assume, and that logically that this is how he's taught. The Rav Nachman who the Amar Rabban Gamliel. Okay, and we're going to stop right there. Okay? All right. Tomorrow's a long Amud too. Yeah.
Tomorrow we're going to get the